Right, this is an educational entertainment stroke value video on how I'm going to modify the standard MaXpeedingrods air heater. It's a diesel powered air heater. It's powered by 12 volts and they supply you, nicely enough, an IEC lead, which is a bit weird, but which obviously then plugs onto your battery or your power supply, whatever you're running it on. The goal is to actually put a 240 volt or 110 to 240 volt power supply inside the unit so I can run it at mains. And the main reason for doing this is I only use this around the house, mainly in the garage, up in my shed, and it's just more for convenience really. I don't really want a separate power supply or to have to rely on a battery that may fail, because these units do draw quite a lot of current. Now a lot of people say, oh, you'll get away with probably a 5 amp power supply. Well, you will when it's running, but nowhere. You need a minimum of 10 amps just to actually get the heater plug to glow and the pump switch on, and then it starts running. So it's drawing around about 10 amps initial startup. So as I'll show you the power supply that I've bought and the modification I did to it to get it up and running, and then I'll just show you the mods I've done. But like I say, this isn't for you to do, this is for entertainment purposes only. This is for my own use and will not be resold. To wire the power supply, all it simply needs is, when it arrives, you'll have 2 copper strips, your positive at the top, your negative strip, then you've got some control pins down here. I've just soldered these terminals on just so I can connect into the enable terminal. I've just put a link, and it's the first pin, and travelling in this direction is the 4th pin up, and that should then enable the power supply to switch on when the mains is present. I've connected a multimeter across the output set to DC. We'll just plug in the mains. And as you can see, we're reading 12.26 volts. Now there are some mods on here. If you want to get more out of it, you need to open it up and adjust a few little things, but I'm going to leave it at 12.26 because that's fine for what I need. Just thought I'd show you the current consumption on these Chinese diesel heaters. So that's initially heating the glow plug up, I believe. A good 10 amps there you need. Now I've seen online people are saying, oh, you only need a 5 amp power supply. Well, you do, you know, while it's running, but just get it actually to run, minimum of a 12 amp power supply. I've just heard the fan kick in. Okay, the pump's just started up. I'm still drawing quite a bit of current. I'm just starting to produce a little bit of heat now. That's power 1. This is the mod for this MaXpeedingrods. What they give you a 12 volt input, which just happens to be an IEC connector, which I think is quite dangerous really, but that's what they do. They give you a lead that plugs into there, which you can then obviously plug onto a battery or whatever you're going to run the unit off. Now I personally want to run this unit off mains, so unfortunately giving me this, I'm going to have to relabel this. It's a simple mod. Obviously take all the casing apart, and on the back here, where the IC lead comes in, we've just connected an IC plug, and that'll plug then into the server power supply that I'm going to use. We've taken the positive from the L, and we've also taken an earth, which is still in this plug, but also I've bonded that to the actual chassis. So as you can see there, the actual power supply, I ain't quite sure where I'm going to mount it yet, but it'll be probably roughly somewhere around about here. These are HP server power supplies. They're rated at 12 volts, 62.5 amps, which is probably just about enough for these things. Obviously there's the IEC input there, and on this end, this one's been modified. I use this for my ham radio, but you've got your 12 volts and your 0 volt, and then there's an enable switch. but I bought another one to basically mount there. The IEC lead, well, simply just plug into that. The original 12 volt feed, I'll extend the wires from this, but I do want to keep the original 12 volt wires, so I will actually poke those out through the little hole in the back, so if it does need to run on a battery it can be. But from the output of the server power supply, I'll just connect it into these two leads. The other mod I've done is when you actually buy the unit, they give you a roll of this thermal wrap to put around the exhaust. I've cut 2 strips, double-sided, taped it down to the top of there, and obviously that's where my power supply is going to fit. Everything I've made is this bracket. This is effectively the size of the unit, a little tab on there, and I'll put a little bit of double-sided tape on it, but this will be actually bolted to the metal plate that runs down the length here, and effectively that will drop over onto there, and that will hold that secure then, so it's not going anywhere. Done the modification. This is now going to be a 240 volt input. I'll put a label on there to advise, but I've also put a 12 volt output out here if I want to drive anything from it. I'll just show you the inside. So that's basically going to be our 12 volt output from our power supply. That was our mains input. Show you the pump. Now the pump on this one is really quiet. I've got 2 of these, so I'm going to look at changing the pump. Second unit I've got is the ticking noise on it is atrocious. So I'm going to have a look at changing this pump on the other unit. The other modification I've made, I've cut a section of the chassis out here, and I've mounted, I'll show you underneath, a brass coupling on a plate that I've made. So from that brass coupling I'm going to mount the air input hose, which is the one supplied, bring it up through the chassis and drill a hole and bring it out through the top of the unit. I want to try and keep this as self-contained as possible. As soon as I've drilled that, I might even 3D print a little plate that this connects into, and then the actual air filter can actually then screw into the back of the unit's complete now. I went with a different idea on the air inlet. We've got the 240 volt mains input now. From the power supply we can take a 12 volt output, but the air inlet, I was going to take it through the top of the case and have the air hose sticking up basically, but what I've used is some 20mm plastic pipe fittings. So effectively this will actually now just leave a slot into this here, and I can orientate it to whichever angle I want really. Inside the unit I've drilled a hole, I've taken that plastic fitting through, and then we've got another 90-degree bend which then feeds into some of the original hose. Now the original hose then simply drops down onto the fitting that I made to go into the air inlet hose. I did have to cut away a little bit of the chassis. At the base I've used this brass plumbing fixture, which I think would be screwed to a wall and you would screw a tap into it. Fits nicely inside the diameter of the air inlet. I've also manufactured this plate to stabilise it so there's no movement on it, so that keeps it nice and rigid. And the original hose comes in, and then I've just put a Jubilee clip on it just to secure it in place. And that's now sorted out the air input for me, and it keeps it tidy. We're done. Everything's in place. I need to just clamp that down a little bit tighter, but there's no movement in that whatsoever, and it just about breaks clear of the surface, so there's fine with that. This pipe I've added an extra clip to, just to tie it to the chassis. The wiring I've run down the side down there and just dropped some P-clips either end just to keep the wires tidy. But really other than that it's done now. What I'll do, I'll fire it up and we can just have a quick look and see what it sounds like and whether it's working or not. But I have pre-tested the power supply obviously prior to putting it together, and it did seem to work okay. Does it work? Yes, it's power setting 5. got to be one of the quietest pumps I've ever heard. You can't even hit a tick on it. I've got another one of these. I'm going to have to replace the pump on it definitely after hearing this one. But yeah, so it's 240 volt mains input now. Got a 12 volt output or input if I need it. Lovely and warm. It's on setting power 5. It's been running for about 30 minutes now. And it's just very slightly warm to the touch. If anything really, to be honest. Nothing. Mod complete. It's been running for about 6-7 hours now. Not continuously, but on and off. And it's working fine. I had no doubts it would, to be honest, because I do have another one, which is over there, which has been in the shed 18 months now, all through last winter and this winter, and it's got the same power supply inside it and it runs fine, no problem whatsoever. Although I do need to address that one because it's got a really loud ticking. Now this video wasn't done to show you how to do this. It's for educational purposes only, or entertainment value. I wouldn't recommend you do this because you are going to avoid any warranty on the unit. Now I was quite lucky with this unit. I got it for basically nothing because it arrived damaged in the post. I was just told to keep it. So I've done a few repairs on it, straightened out some of the bent metal. Still a little bit of broken plastic on it, mainly on the exhaust output let there, and the motor was all knocked out of line. So I just thought, well, I basically got it for nothing. I might as well have a go. As I say, it's a simple mod. Took a little bit of cutting just to make sure everything fitted nice, but as I say, for educational purposes only. It's for my own use only, it won't be resold.